If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, everyone, and welcome on in to another edition of Eye on the Enemy, powered by the Eagles Pin Pull Network. I'm your host, John Stolnis. I write for BleedingGreenNation.com, and this week we are taking a look at this Sunday night matchup between the Eagles and the 5-5 LA Rams. The Eagles looking to keep their 6-game winning streak moving along, move it to 7 in a row, 8-2, sitting atop the NFC East by a game and a half over the Washington Commanders. And we're going to talk about this matchup here on Sunday night with an excellent writer from the SB Nation Rams site Turf Show Times, Blaine Greesak, going to be with us in just a second to help break down the X's and O's and the key matchups. And after we talk to Blaine, we're going to talk about some New York Giants news. They released Daniel Jones on Friday, and we'll talk about just how hilarious that is, and some things that could come down over the next week ahead of Thanksgiving that could be really fun with Daniel Jones. But we'll talk about that, and I'll also run down the Week 12 schedule and give you my thoughts on winners, straight up winners in the Week 12 schedule. All that stuff coming up here on this edition of Eye on the Enemy. So the Rams come in to this Sunday night matchup at 5-5 off of a victory against the Patriots last week, 28-22. A nice turnaround here for the Rams following a 1-4 start. And joining me to help break down this game on Sunday, big game for both of these NFC teams fighting for playoff positioning, really, and in the Rams' case, fighting for a spot in the postseason, but also a division title as well. Blaine Greesak of Turf Show Times, that is the SB Nation Rams site. You can follow him on the X machine at B Greesak. I'm going to mess that up. B Greesak TST. BGreeSakTST. It makes sense, guys. If you just think about it, B Greesak TST. Turf Show Times. Get it? Brian, welcome to Eye on the Enemy. How are you, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. The Rams and the Eagles obviously are in the past two of the better teams in the NFC. The Eagles are looking really good, actually. And the Rams are kind of footing here by week on business. So hopefully more.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams have played each other quite a bit in recent years, so they know each other pretty well, I think. Before we get into the specific matchups with this game, though, I am curious about the turnaround that the Rams have undergone the last few weeks. 4-1 now after a 1-4 start. The Eagles had a similar turnaround coming out of the bye, but it wasn't quite as dramatic. 2-2, and they've won 6 in a row since the bye week, obviously. But what's different now from the first 5 weeks of the season?
Just getting healthier. The offensive line has they dealt with a lot of injuries in training camp, early part of the season. Steve Avila was out. Johnny Jackson he was out. He said he's been benched. But yeah, and then Kukua also injured. So they've just been getting healthier, and that's really helped, obviously. So that's been the biggest turnaround from a personnel standpoint, and it's allowed them to get back to what Sean Davis did in the season.
So before we get into the specifics, give me your take on the division as a whole, because the NFC West, it's kind of a crapshoot at the moment. You've got the Cardinals, and I still can't believe it. Jonathan Gannon's Cardinals at 6-4. We do not. No love lost for Jonathan Gannon here in Philadelphia, and I thought he was going to be a one and done head coach with Arizona, and here they're 6-4 and they're playing pretty good football. And then after that, it's an evenly matched bunch. You've got the Seahawks, the Rams, and the 49ers all at 5-5. How do you see this thing breaking down here over the last couple months of the season?
Yeah, it's really I think look at the Cardinals, and you've seen them kind of in past years just kind of crash as you go through the season, and they might actually try to be legit. Kyler Murray's looking really good. That defense is, I think, playing pretty feisty, and they kind of have a pretty favorable schedule down the stretch. And you look at the 49ers, and they don't really look as strong as they have. They're doing a lot of injuries. Chris McCaffrey's back, I think, this week. I think Trent Williams is questionable. So that's a big hit to their offense, and then the Rams have difficult schedule down the stretch too. They play the 49ers, they play the Bills for a couple weeks, obviously play the Eagles on Sunday night. So I think it's a division that's going to come down to the final 2 weeks. I think the Rams play the Cardinals back. They play the Cardinals in week 17. And then they finish the season against the Seahawks. So this is a division that's going to come down to the final few weeks, and we'll see how it shakes out. But I think the Cardinals are our favorite right now.
Well, I mean, that brings into question. I mean, I'm curious your thoughts as someone who I'm sure watches the 49ers a lot more than we do right now. I am a subscriber to the Super Bowl loser hiccup or hangover the following year that happened to the Eagles last season. It didn't look like it was going to, and then in the second half of the season, the bear got him, tackled him to the ground, and rip their throats out, and that's how it happens. I mean, it's really amazing. You just get a string of either bad luck or injuries. The vibes coming into the season weren't good in San Francisco. And I know you don't cover the 49ers, but I know as a team that plays them, you're I'm sure dialed into the division more than I am. Like, how do the 49ers, do you feel a resurrection coming for them? Like as a Rams fan, as somebody who covers the Rams, like, are they still kind of a dangerous team out in the NFC West? Or is this kind of one of those years where you're looking at them and you're saying, no, it's just not their year?
Yeah, they're such a hard to write off because you still see all that talent on Shanahan in the NFL. You just don't look at their losing pieces. It has been very unlucky. They lost to the Rams earlier in the season after having a 10-point lead. They lost to the Cardinals having a 10-point lead. Last week they lost to the Seahawks after also having a pretty big lead as well. And they're just losing these games in very, I don't want to say fluky fashions, but there's definitely an element of luck, I think, involved in those. Also, there's hard right now. I think that Super Bowl hangover. It's definitely something that people think overlook a lot. The Rams dealt with it back in 2022. The Eagles also dealt with it as well. So, they just kind of managed that a little bit.
Yeah, unless you're the Patriots or the Chiefs with two of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, Mahomes and Brady, it's a thing. It really is. All right, let's talk about this matchup on Sunday night in particular. I want to start off talking about the Rams offense, and the Eagles come in with the number one defense overall in terms of yards allowed per game this season, but the Rams have a very good passing game. It's especially gotten better with Cooper Kupp back in the lineup, Puka Nacua in the lineup. Those two guys have been on quite a run over the last month or so. The Rams are 7th in passing yards a game. The Eagles defense, in just a complete and total 180 from last year, have given up the second fewest passing yards per game. It's been just 130 passing yards per game over the last 6 games. And that includes games with Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels. So when you're looking at this Rams passing offense, how are they going to attack what it is the Eagles are doing right now with 2 stud rookies in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the secondary, along with the veteran Darius Slay and some of these linebackers that are really starting to get better in pass coverage?
You look at we'll get to Jared I think a little later, but what Brandon Fisher have given the Rams this season. Putting Mitchell and Cooper DeJean have provided that to the Eagles secondary. Knight has played really well. I think coming into the year, Pro Football Focus ranks Eagles secondary is like 24th best unit, and right now, like you said, they've been one of the best secondaries over the last 6 weeks or so. How the Rams attack that? They've been the numbers I think are a little better than what the eye test suggests. They've been kind of I think pretty inconsistent at times. It's an offensive pass off that shoots yourself in the foot a lot. You go back and look at the the Dolphins team on Monday Night Football a few weeks ago, and you go back to earlier games this season against the Bears. They're an offense that tends to move the ball pretty well, but they just can't finish drives sometimes. So I think when it comes to a defense like what the Eagles have with McFangio, you have to win with like that 5,000 cuts type mindset, and I'm curious to see if the Rams are patient enough on offense to be able to accomplish that. I think how you Eagles like you have to go after the linebackers. Zach Vaughn is playing really well. You can attack the Kobe Dean a little bit. But yeah, I think these cornerbacks as wide receivers, it's certainly you have star power there.
Now, is this Rams offense kind of it's obviously a pass heavy offense because it's a Sean McVay offense, but how dangerous is the running game? Like how much do the Eagles need to pay attention to the running game here?
Yeah, for the Rams offense to be successful, they have to be able to run the ball. It just hasn't been there over the last 6 weeks or so. It is, you look for the where for rushing 6 straight. I think they're a lot of 15 in rushing. Which is odd. You get these weapons at wide receiver back, and the running game. I think you would expect that to get better. Oh, and it just hasn't been the case. But I think it's still something that the Eagles have to pay attention to. I mean, for the Rams, like I said, for the Rams offense to be successful, they have to be able to run the ball. This is an offensive line that is getting healthier. This is the second week that they'll have Bo Limmer and Steve Avila playing next to each other at center and left guard. So you might get some consistency there. More so than past years with this Rams offense. The Rams have ran play action a lot more with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. That wasn't something that they did back in 2021 during their Super Bowl season. So, yeah, to limit this offense, you have to take away the run, and if you can make Sean McVay give up on the run game and make him kind of make it a one-dimensional offense, you can have success against it.
And that's also the offensive line has kind of been in flux too, right? I mean, you just swapped out your centers last week, and I know you mentioned earlier in the interview that we've been having there was an issue with injuries along the offensive line. So like this matchup against the Eagles defensive line, it's been kind of an up and down unit, but it seems like they're playing better. Josh Sweat on the edge is playing pretty well, and for a lot of years, Aaron Donald was a one-man wrecking crew in the middle of the LA defense. Right now, Jalen Carter is setting himself up to be a guy similar to that. What kind of problems does someone like Jalen Carter in the middle pose to this Rams offensive line?
I think he poses a huge threat. It's something that I'm very intrigued to watch on Sunday night. For the first time this season, the Rams offensive line kind of seems like it's in a relatively stable place, which is kind of crazy to say now that we're in week 12, that we're finally at that point. But they found something in Bo Limmer in the 6th round. He filled in there in the beginning of the season and has just kind of gotten better every game. And they took him out when Jonas Jackson got healthy against the Dolphins, and that just kind of ended up being a disaster. They benched Jackson last week for Limmer once again, and the offensive line played a lot better because of it. Steve Avila, I think, is getting a little bit more comfortable as he gets more snaps under his belt, because he missed a majority of the first half of the season as well with an injury. So that matchup between Jalen Carter and Steve Avila is going to be really intriguing. Those are two guys that go back to their college days as well. Avila and Carter going up against each other in the national championship game a few years ago when TCU played Georgia. So, yeah, I think this is a huge test for the Rams' offensive line. If they can protect Matthew Stafford, he's obviously one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL when given time. But one thing they have struggled with this year is protecting stunts, and a lot of that is because of just there's been so many changes on the offensive line. They haven't really gotten that communication down consistently in protection. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be, I think, interesting it's going to be a huge test for the Rams offensive line going against guys like Jordan Davis, like Jalen Carter, and if they give Stafford time, he stands a chance. But if not, that Eagles defensive line has a chance to, I think, take over this game.
All right, let's flip the field and let's talk about the Rams defense against the Eagles offense. And normally I like to start with the quarterback and how a team is going to try and figure out Jalen Hurts. But I think as we've watched this Eagles offense and we've seen this team establish an identity since the bye week 6 weeks ago, the Eagles have become a run team first. That, and even though they have some studs on the outside in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, this is a team now with Saquon Barkley running the football that is their identity. Now, they've been getting off to slow starts in the first half of these games and then really kicking it into gear late in the second quarter and then the second half. And that's going to be a problem for this Eagles offense if they can't figure it out as the season goes along. But that being said, Saquon Barkley he might be, I don't know if he's the leading candidate for MVP. I would have said Jamal, man, the name just threw out of my head. Ravens starting quarterback. Lamar Jackson. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Just, wow. Did I mess that up? But yeah, Lamar Jackson, I would have thought until last week, the loss against the Steelers. I think Saquon Barkley's right there in the running for MVP of the NFL right now. So if you're the Rams, is that your first goal right now? Is that your priority, stopping Saquon Barkley and then worrying about the passing offense after that?
Yeah, I think the focus has to be stopping the run, and this is something that I'm also just kind of really interested in watching because the Rams operate in dime a lot. Especially, if they can win on first down and kind of keep offenses in that 2nd and 7 range, they like to play in. They like to play in this 3 safety dime look, and obviously, if your main focus is stopping the run, it's very difficult to play with those lighter personnel packages. So yeah, I think I will be interested to see how Chris Shula attacks that because like you said, Saquon Barkley is having an incredible season. He was kind of locked away in New York there for quite a few years, and goes to an Eagles team that this offseason that has one of the better offensive lines in football, and he's reaped the benefits of that. If he's not the leading candidate for MVP, he's certainly the leading candidate for Offensive Player of the Year right now. So yeah, I think if you can take away that Eagles running game and make them win with Jalen Hurts throwing the ball, not to say that Jalen Hurts isn't a good quarterback because he is, especially throwing outside the numbers, and the Eagles certainly have the weapons on the outside with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown to be successful. To be successful with that, and they can certainly attack the Rams cornerbacks on the outside with Ahkello Witherspoon and Darius Williams and Kobe Durant out there. But yeah, I think everything kind of starts with the run game. And earlier on in the season, the Rams really struggled against the run. They've been better at it over the past 6-7 weeks or so. But yeah, if they can contain Barkley and limit those explosive plays, they certainly, I think, stand. They'll have a better chance in if Barkley's running for 150 yards and has 2 touchdowns, I think it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And I saw this stat that the Rams stack the box about 17% of the time, which is in the bottom third of the league, but they're only 10th in yards per attempt given up. So they're doing a decent job stopping the run without committing those players inside the box there. But the pass defense is where the numbers don't look so great. 22nd in the league in total yards allowed, but 29th in net yards per attempt. They're going to be going up against A.J. Brown. You've got Dallas Goedert. Devontae Smith's availability is still in question as we're recording this here on Friday. We don't know for sure if Devontae is going to play in this game. It kind of looks as though he's not, based on the fact he hasn't practiced yet on Wednesday or Thursday. Coming off the field last Thursday night against the Commanders, he was limping quite a bit. So he's been dealing with this for a little while. Nick Sirianni is going to address the media. So after we're done with this interview, he'll probably give us an idea on Devontae Smith. But if the Eagles are without Devontae Smith, it certainly makes the Rams' jobs a little bit easier on pass defense. How does this matchup look to you? Eagles throwing the ball against this Rams pass defense that has struggled a little bit here in 2024.
Yeah, I think that's a matchup that scares me the most. And I think even if Devontae Smith is out, the Eagles can I think have success throwing the ball. The Rams, coming into this year, that their goal was to rebuild the defense a little bit, and you can't rebuild it all in one offseason. So they really focus on the defensive line, and they did that, drafting guys like Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. But the secondary is really where they've taken a hit. They try to put duct tape on an issue, and bringing back Darius Williams. They tried signing. They tried signing Trey White coming off of injuries and hoping that was a risk of pay off, and it didn't. They traded him at the deadline for a seventh round pick swap to the Baltimore Ravens. So it's just their cornerbacks haven't been they've been good enough in moments, but they've really struggled covering down the field. And Jalen Hurts' deep ball, I think, is when it's on, it's on, and it looks really good. And the Rams secondary has been susceptible to giving up those types of big plays deep down the field. And players like AJ Brown are going to be able to win there consistently. So, that's I think the matchup that the Eagles can take advantage of the most.
And as we are speaking, I was just I'm keeping an eye on the tweet deck because Nick Sirianni did mention something about Devontae Smith's availability. He says on Sunday, "We'll see." So less than helpful, Nick. Thank you for that quite opaque look at Devontae Smith's availability. So to wrap things up here, let me get your thoughts on the outcome of this game on Sunday night. Obviously, you got a Rams team that is still very much alive to win the NFC West, and with that, a number 3 or number 4 seed in the conference. But and they're at home, right? This is in LA. Am I right about that?
Yep.
And I'm not mistaken.
LA,
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So it's a home game for the Rams. The Eagles are 3-point favorites on the road. How do you see this thing shaking out?
Yeah, I personally don't feel great about it. I think this Eagles defensive line does have an opportunity to really take over this game and fluster Matthew Stafford a bit. At the same time, I felt that way earlier this season when the Rams played the Minnesota Vikings, and they ended up having their best offensive performance of the year. So I guess we'll see there. I'll be really interested to see Sean McVay and Vic Fangio go way back. You kind of look back at their matchups. When Fangio was with the Bears in Chicago, so kind of a little bit of a chess match there. But yeah, I think the Eagles should, if they've been playing like I thought they would to start the year. They're starting to find their groove, and they do look like one of the better teams in the NFC, and a team that I think can contend with the Detroit Lions if they were to meet in the postseason. But yeah, I just see the Eagles as a better team right now. If I had to make a score prediction, I'd say something like Eagles 27, Rams 20, maybe.
All right. I mean, that sounds about right. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think both teams are going to put some points on the board. So the number you're talking about there sounds about right to me. Folks, if you want to get an eye on the enemy, to know what's going on with the Rams ahead of this Sunday night, make sure you're reading Turf Show Times over at SB Nation, and check out Blaine Greesak's work over at Turf Show Times. Follow him on X at B Greesak TST. Nailed it that time, Blaine. Just landed the plane that time. Yeah. Thanks for coming on the Enemy, Blaine. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate me on. Thanks, John.
All right, well, I'll give you my prediction on this game coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But first, we have got to talk about the news from the New York Giants today. They have benched. Well, we already knew that they had benched Daniel Jones as their starter. That information came out earlier this week, but they were demoting him all the way to like number 3 or number 4 quarterback. It was clear that he was not going to play another snap for the Giants this year. So they have released Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones now, if he goes through waivers, it's likely he'll clear waivers because of his onerous contract. No team is going to pick up the contract. So Daniel Jones is set to be a free agent here as we are getting ready to play Week 12 action. So as much as we kid about Daniel Jones and make fun of Daniel Jones as the quarterback of the Giants, and what a disastrous contract it was to sign him 2 off seasons ago, and as a result decide not to pay Saquon Barkley. The Giants chose Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley, gang. That's what they did. You can't frame it and phrase it any other way. The Giants said, we'd rather hitch our wagon to Daniel Jones coming off that playoff appearance, the one good year that Jones had, rather than pay Saquon Barkley. And here you have the Eagles with Saquon Barkley having an MVP caliber season, and you have the Rams saying goodbye to their quarterback and essentially saying, we are starting over. Now, in 70 games for the New York Giants in his career, do you know how much Daniel Jones made? Daniel Jones made $108 million. According to SpotTrack, he is the 35th highest paid quarterback in NFL history, just behind Drew Luck. Daniel Jones made $108,129,056 in his NFL career. And now you kind of have to ask yourself, where does he go from here? I do believe Daniel Jones is a good backup quarterback. I would be more than happy to have Daniel Jones even in Philadelphia as the backup quarterback. Certainly I would rather have him over somebody like Kenny Pickett. But at this stage of the season, Daniel Jones coming in and learning this offense wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. For a contending team like the Eagles, you're probably just going to go ahead and ride with Kenny Pickett. I mean, maybe if you brought Daniel Jones in as your third string guy to learn the offense, but then if Jalen Hurts were to get hurt, Daniel Jones is your guy. But the really hilarious scenario that is working its way on the Twitter machine right now and on social media is, can you imagine if the Dallas Cowboys, without Dak Prescott, riding Cooper Kupp and Trey Lance right now, if they were to go out, and this is Jerry Jones, right? I mean, Jerry Jones, of course he would do something like this. Daniel Jones is for all intents and purposes right now, in terms of a backup quarterback, the bright and shiny object. And Daniel Jones he's like a hyperactive dog when he sees a squirrel. Daniel Jones is the squirrel running around right now, who he's not going to save the Cowboys season, but could you not see Jerry Jones signing Daniel Jones as a free agent just to kind of make the Cowboys offense maybe a little less laughable? But I mean, is Daniel Jones better than Cooper Rush? I might have said Cooper Kupp a second ago. Is he better than Cooper Rush? I don't know that he is, especially since Cooper Rush has been in the Dallas offense. And don't you kind of need to see what you have in Trey Lance? I mean, you signed him or, traded for him this offseason, right? I don't know. I don't see it, but wouldn't it be hilarious for the Cowboys to sign Daniel Jones to be their starting quarterback and to play him against the Giants on Thanksgiving? Would that not be unbelievable theater? It would certainly make that game more watchable, wouldn't it? Instead of Cooper Rush or Trey Lance against DiNucci. Wouldn't that? I mean, that would certainly be the most hilarious of all of the different outcomes here. And listen, good on the Giants for releasing Daniel Jones when they weren't going to play him. Daniel apparently went to Giants president and asked to be released, and that's because he wants to play and he wasn't going to play at all this year. So it's just that's the Giants, gang. That's what's going on in New York. I mean, I was really worried about the Giants as an up and coming team with Brian Daboll, and now, he made Daboll. I think Daboll should survive this season. I think he was set up for failure by the front office, but choosing to let Saquon go, and they never put the pieces. They've never put the pieces in place there. You've got to have a quarterback in this league. I mean, if you've seen nothing else with what we're seeing in Washington and what we've seen with some of these other teams, like in Houston, that if you don't have a starting quarterback to build around, if you're going year to year on a guy you don't feel great about as your starting quarterback, you're never going to make the leap. You're never going to make that next step. You're never going to truly be a contender year in and year out. And say what you want about Jalen Hurts, and I have had my criticisms of Hurts. He's certainly not a perfect quarterback, but at least, the Eagles paid Jalen Hurts. They saw in 2022 that he is a guy who can win a Super Bowl. He played well enough that season to get them there. He played great in the postseason. He played great in he outplayed Mahomes in the Super Bowl, gang, to the point where at least you saw he can take you all the way. Now, was there a guarantee he'll do it again? No. Did he take a step back in 2023 for reasons we're still not entirely sure about? But I've enumerated a number of the reasons why I thought Jalen Hurts took a step back next year. There were a bunch of them. I don't think there was an injury. I just don't think he came into 2023 ready for the season, which was understandable but not acceptable given the offseason that he had, negotiating a new contract, all the new media responsibilities, the team responsibilities, the all of that kind of stuff. He wasn't ready for 2023, a shortened offseason, all that stuff. Clearly came into 2024 in better physical shape and has played very well. Still makes mistakes with the football, still holds on to the ball too long, still doesn't have great pocket awareness. He gets himself into trouble. He works himself into sacks. He leaves some meat on the bones, but does enough great things that he wins a lot of football games. And you can still see this is a guy who can take over a game and win you a Super Bowl. At 100%, he is a guy who can do all that. Daniel Jones is just not that guy. You need, and now the Giants have a chance to reset. They're going to have an opportunity here probably to get a top 5, top 7 pick and go draft yourself a quarterback. Look at what Denver's doing with Bo Nix. That pick was panned a little bit because Nix was an older rookie quarterback, but they've gotten a guy who came in right away and has progressed under Sean Payton's offense. Like, you do need to have a quarterback, a coach that can coach up a young quarterback, but you also need to have that young quarterback in place. And I think what's happening in Jacksonville is a little bit weird because I really do think Doug Peterson is a guy who can develop a young quarterback. And I think Press Taylor continues to be Doug Peterson's kryptonite in Jacksonville and everywhere else he's been. That's been kind of a weird situation. But generally speaking, when you have a quarterback with upside and you pair him with an offensive coordinator and or a head coach that knows how to work with a quarterback, you're going to have success. And we're seeing it in Washington right now. We're seeing it in Denver. We haven't seen it in New York because Daniel Jones was a limited player. So they're going to move on. And maybe they will now go draft a guy early in the first round. You almost have to tank in order to get that quarterback that you need. You needed to do what Washington did. You got to bottom out. And the Giants at least decided they needed to do that. And I think they're wise. I think they would be wise to hold on to Brian Daboll as a head coach. I think you get rid of the rest of the front office. But Brian Daboll, I think if you give him a good starting quarterback, a good rookie quarterback to grow with, that he can turn that team into a winning team. But, we will see. It is objectively hilarious what has happened in New York this season. The decisions that front office made set them back 2 years. There's no doubt about it. Set them back 2 years. And now here we are. They're going to be picking early again in the 2025 draft, and we'll see how they're able to handle it. Also, we found Commanders cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, who they traded for, still not able to get on the field here in Week 12. He won't play on Sunday against the Cowboys, and we're going to get to that game here in just a second. But let's go down the slate of games here, and just the ones that could be of interest to the Eagles in the NFC mostly, but I'll also, if there's a big AFC matchup, we'll mention it. In the 1 o'clock window, you've got the Detroit Lions in Indianapolis to take on the Colts. It's a 7. The Lions are 7.5 point favorites. Can you, the heights to which the Lions have risen here in 2024, a perennial laughingstock throughout the NFL. This is now widely perceived to be the best team in football, and they are doing nothing to dispel those high expectations. It's a big line. The Colts look to be playing a little bit better, but I'm not betting against the Lions to do anything right now. They're blowing teams out, whether it's at home, on the road, it doesn't matter. The Lions are really a good football team. They're going to win this game. I don't do point spread picks, so don't listen to me about point spread picks, but I think the Lions, it feels like a game the Lions can win by a couple of touchdowns. The 1 o'clock, the big NFC East game here on Sunday afternoon is the Cowboys taking on the Commanders in Washington. The Commanders have lost 2 in a row. They did not look very good last Thursday against the Eagles. They've had extra time to prepare, so that is good for Washington's sake, and they get the Cowboys at home. But you know what? Gang? I'm not so sure the Cowboys don't go into Washington and win that football game. I wouldn't bet on it, gang. If you're listening to me and you're saying, "Oh, that means I'm going to put money on the Cowboys to win," I wouldn't do that. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be inside 10 points. For Bleeding Green Nation, for my picks, I'm trying to make up some ground. a little bit on because I'm down near the bottom. I'm still well over 500, but I haven't had my best year picking games. I've won that 3 years, 3 years, and I won it last year. So it hasn't worked out for me this year. So I'm picking some more upsets, and I'm picking the Cowboys to win the game. But it's kind of like a shot in the dark here. These teams always play each other close. And, I think, the Cowboys have certainly bottomed out, but they do play better on the road than they do at home. And I think the Commanders are kind of taking a step back a little bit. Jaden Daniels, I don't know how healthy he is. I mean, if you're looking for an upset, I think this could be an upset here on Sunday afternoon. Just the way the Commanders are trending. Neither of these teams are playing great football right now. But if you're looking for an upset, this is an old school NFC East rival. It's a division game in Washington, a place the Cowboys have traditionally played pretty good. So I'm picking the Cowboys to win that game. I do think it's going to be closer than the 10.5 point spread we're seeing right now. Another game that involves an NFC East team. You've got the Giants now without Daniel Jones hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are favored by 6. I do like the Buccaneers to win that game. Continuing to move through the 1 o'clock slate, a big NFC North game. The Vikings in Chicago to take on the Bears. The Bears have just kind of been an unlucky team so far here this year. They should have beaten the Packers last week. They should have beaten the Commanders a couple of weeks ago, with the exception of that fluky Hail Mary. And now you've got them hosting the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings come in as 3.5 point favorites. I think the Vikings are just a better team, although I'm not sold on Sam Darnold as a quarterback here. And I think Caleb Williams is the better quarterback. Who did I take in this game? I don't even remember. I think I took the Bears. So I'll take the Bears. I'll take the Bears to win this game at home against the Minnesota Vikings. I think Chicago is playing better football than their record indicates. So I'll take Chicago at home to win that game. Now, here in the late Sunday afternoon window, you've got the Broncos in Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Again, this is an upset. I've got the Raiders winning this game at home against the Denver Broncos, and Broncos are riding high. There's no real reason to pick against Denver, but as 6-point favorites on the road in Las Vegas, no, give me the Raiders. I'll take the Raiders to win that game. Another upset for me. The 49ers are in Green Bay to take on the Packers. The Packers have had a devil of a time beating this 49ers team over the years. Certainly the Packers want to get some revenge for that NFC, was it the divisional round? Yeah, the divisional round matchup that the Packers lost in San Francisco. This time they're playing in Green Bay. I still think the 49ers are going to win this football game in Green Bay. The Packers are 3-point home favorites. I think the 49ers go into Lambeau, despite the fact we don't really know about Brock Purdy right now. Brock Purdy's status is kind of up in the air. He removed himself from practice, from throwing the ball. He got an MRI on Friday. They say it looks okay. I think Brock Purdy will get the start, but again, I get why there's some nervousness about the 49ers. I'm not high on the 49ers by any stretch of the imagination. But again, I'm looking for an upset. I'll take San Francisco to go into Green Bay and win that game. That has been historically a matchup the 49ers have been winning against the Packers. I don't see any reason to change things right now. I got the 49ers winning in Green Bay against the Packers. And then the other late game, the Cardinals in Seattle to take on the Seahawks, a big NFC West matchup. Both of these teams fighting for the division. The Cardinals come in 6-4, the Seahawks at 5-5. I will take Seattle to win that game at home as a 1-point home favorite. Seattle wins that game. And then on Monday night, you've got the Ravens in LA to take on the Chargers. Ravens are 2.5-point road favorites. Give me the Chargers. I like what I'm seeing from Justin Herbert. I think the Chargers win that game at home on Monday Night Football, which takes us to Sunday night, Eagles against the Rams. The Eagles are 2.5-point road favorites, according to DraftKings. And I do like the Eagles to win this game. I really do think Blaine was kind of hitting the nail on the head about where this thing finishes up. The Rams, their passing offense does worry me a little bit. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, they have been dynamic, but the Eagles' pass defense has just been so good. Quinyon Mitchell has eliminated half the field. He has eliminated half the field. He's doing what Deion Sanders used to do and basically force a quarterback to only look to the middle and to the other side of the field. That's what Quinyon Mitchell has done. And Cooper DeJean has been wiping out slot corners as of late. So I don't know where Matthew Stafford's going to go with the football. They are going to make some plays. They are going to get open. There's going to be some things that Sean McVay schemes open. There might be some hold your breath moments. The Rams might score first. We've seen that with the Eagles here. They really have to get off to better starts. They've got to figure out a way to diagnose why they're having so much trouble early in games. Now, they did move the ball well last week against the Commanders, and Jake Elliott hurt them with some missed field goals. I do think, the way this defense is played, if it's a coin flip, I'd say kick the field goal right now, because the Eagles defense has done a good job not giving up points, not allowing opposing offenses to score a lot on them. So maybe you err on the side of taking 3 points if it is a coin flip. But if it's anything other than a coin flip, obviously you want the Eagles to stay aggressive, but they lost 7 points from Jake Elliott last week against Washington at home. And now you're going into LA. Should be better kicking conditions. The weather should be good in LA on Sunday night. So I do think the Eagles will score a little bit more early, and I think the Eagles win this one going away. I'm going to say Eagles 30, Rams 17 in this one. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this edition of Eye on the Enemy. I want to make sure you're all checking out every podcast we have going on here at the Eagles Pin Pull Network. Subscribe, leave a rating and a review. Let us know what you think of Eye on the Enemy and all of the other great shows that we have for you here. And check out all of my stuff, all of my writing over at bleedinggreennation.com as well. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Eye on the Enemy.